there are some statues out there that harbor some hidden curiosities inside them. From a creepy corpse encased in a Buddha to this bonkers butt discovery, join me as we uncover the strangest things found in statues. Freaky face. If you head to Berlin's Neues Museum, you'll find the world-renowned Nefertiti bust. The work, believed to have been crafted in 1340 BCE by the sculptor Thutmose, depicts the face of Nefertiti, the great royal wife of the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten. The bust is visited by some 500,000 sightseers every year, yet few of those who marvel at Her Majesty know what's underneath this statue's surface. Back in 2009, researchers performing a CT scan uncovered a wrinkled face of Nefertiti carved in the inner core of the bust. The inner face exhibited creases around the mouth and cheek, less prominent cheekbones, and a slight bump on the nose. But Thutmose thought it'd be best to reflect his queen in the most attractive way, covering the limestone core in layers of stucco before sculpting over it with the glamorous bust we all now know. Talk about being two-faced. Aside from that, some people out there believe this bust's ludicrously long head points to more hidden secrets. Online conspiracy theorists have speculated that Nefertiti's elongated skull shape links her to some sort of race of ancient aliens. In fairness, a skull that shape does sound otherworldly. However, the most likely explanation is that Nefertiti underwent artificial cranium deformation, or ACD. The procedure, which is typically carried out on an infant when the skull is most compliant, is achieved by applying pressure upwards. Strange as it seems, ACD was common amongst the ancient Egyptian nobility, who used it as a mark of their heightened social status, visually differentiating themselves from the lower classes. What do you think? Does the Nefertiti bust point to ACD or aliens? Let me know in the comments below. Sphinx's secrets. But Nefertiti's bust isn't the only piece of Egyptian architecture that harbors a secret or two. Located on the Giza Plateau, just a stone's throw away from the Great Pyramids, is the Great Sphinx of Giza. This colossal 66-foot high and 240-foot long limestone statue of the Sphinx, a mythical creature with the head of a human, body of a lion, and wings of an eagle, is believed to have been built around 2500 BCE. That makes this statue over 4,500 years old. Considering it's been around for so long, it's no surprise rumors have sprung up on what could be beneath the Sphinx's limestone exterior. Man, imagine if there was an ancient Sphinx skeleton resting inside there. Well, Egyptologist Manu Safzada decided to find out for himself using a non-invasive technique known as seismic tomography to dig deeper. This method involves sending seismic waves through the statue and measuring how those waves travel through the material, allowing Safzada to build up a 3D image of the inside of the Sphinx. Incredibly, he found a large void measuring 40 foot by 30 foot located around 15 feet below the statue's front paws. So what could this space be hiding? For many, this void is likely to contain the Hall of Records, an alleged ancient library buried under the Sphinx that's said to contain the ancient wisdom of Atlantis. While that may sound a little fanciful, there are various other shafts and openings that point to some secret inside the Sphinx. For starters, there's this intriguing portal-like hole found on the top of the Sphinx's head. Sadly though, this isn't an elevated entrance. Instead, it's believed to be an old accessory. Many ancient Egyptian texts depict the Sphinx wearing a crown, so if the crown did exist, it's likely this shaft was once the place where it was fitted. Another potential entrance point into the statue is found just below the Sphinx's right ear. Take a look. Looks an awful lot like a door, doesn't it? Saying that, it's not exactly the most logical place for an entrance point to reach inside the Sphinx. Interestingly, there's another smaller door-like carving found below the Sphinx's left ear too. However, much like the hole in the Sphinx's head, these are believed to be cavities designed to allow accessories like a beard or earrings to be fitted onto the statue. Though the mysteries on what lie within the Sphinx are still at large, one thing's for certain: the Great Sphinx of Giza was once a very stylish statue. Dental discovery. But Egypt isn't the only country containing statues with some strange secrets. Back in 2014, restoration workers in Mexico were working on this spooky statue known as the Lord of Patience. It's fair to say having to get up close and personal with this ominous 18th century object would be scary enough. However, the restoration workers soon discovered something even more harrowing inside the statue. As part of the refurbishment, researchers took an X-ray of the Lord of Patience, revealing this inside. Yep, that's right. They found 8 teeth within Jesus' head. The fangs were only slightly visible through Christ's open lips, but anthropologists said X-rays showed the 8 teeth are complete and intact all the way to the root. If that wasn't spine-chilling enough, these turned out to be human gnashers too. The question is, why were they there? According to the restorers, the teeth were likely donated as a token of gratitude. Man, that's one grisly gift. Strange as it sounds, in Mexico, parishioners are known to volunteer hair, clothes, and money to saintly statues. While bones and teeth are sometimes used too, these tend to belong to animals. Never before had human teeth been found inside a statue. Truth be told, that's one disturbing discovery. A bootyful find. Funnily enough, the Lord of Patience isn't the only statue of Jesus that holds something strange inside. Restorers to the Cristo del Miserere, an 18th century statue of Jesus found in Sotillo de la Ribera, Spain, were carrying out work to the object when they noticed something odd. While flipping the Jesus over, they uncovered an old piece of cloth. Hiding beneath the material was a small opening in the most ungodly place, the backside of the statue. After opening up Jesus' butt, yep, I really just said that, they discovered the statue's behind was home to a secret scroll. 2 handwritten letters, yellow with age, were inside. They were dated back to 1777 and signed by Joaquin Minguez, a chaplain from the Burgo de Osma Cathedral. In his letters, Minguez paints a picture of the region's day-to-day activity. The chaplain describes the successful harvests as well as diseases like typhoid fever plaguing the village. Outside of local life, Minguez details Spain's political climate, writing that King Carlos III is on the throne. Though I'm not sure what compelled Minguez to place his letters in Jesus' rear end, researchers were more than happy to uncover this cracking find. Full figure. Around 7,500 miles away from Sotillo de la Ribera, you'll find the Hokkaiji Temple in southern Japan. Built in 745 by Empress Komyo, this Buddhist temple houses various icons, including a statuette portraying Manju Bosatsu, someone devoted to becoming a Buddhist. This dainty statue, which dates back to the 14th century, is just 2.5 feet high. Yet despite its small size, this statue holds a secret. Well, 180 in fact. For years, suspicions lingered that something was hiding inside the Manju Bosatsu. So back in 2020, a CT scan was conducted on the figure. Much to the researchers' shock, the scan revealed the inside of the statue was hollow and crammed full of 180 artifacts. Judging by that image, it looks like an assortment of scrolls and relics made up the majority of those items. Though it's not the norm, experts have suggested the owner of the artifacts originally placed them there in an attempt to be spiritually closer to the Buddha. And with 180 artifacts stuffed inside, it's fair to say they gave it a damn good go. Luohan's head. Back in 2016, art experts in Australia were readying this spooky sculpture for auction. However, while inspecting the underside of the 14th century wooden Buddhist bust, representing the head of Luohan, a wise person who has reached nirvana, they discovered a small cavity. As they investigated further, they found a crumpled up piece of paper. However, on closer inspection, the pointless parchment actually turned out to be a 700-year-old banknote from the Ming Dynasty, the period under the Hongwu Emperor Zhu Huanzang, where the note dates from, was prosperous. During this time, China replaced its traditional currency of silver and gold with paper money, just like this find. The intrigue around the item doesn't end there, though. The ancient Chinese artifact is also stamped with 3 official red seals proving its legitimacy, while warning that anyone attempting to counterfeit banknotes will be beheaded. Yikes, they really didn't mess around in 14th century China, did they? When the sculpture finally went to auction, it was sold for a cool $30,000. Let's just hope whoever bought it wasn't paying with illegal tender. Creepy Colossus. Just a few miles outside of Florence is the stunning Pratolino Medici Park. Whether it's rolling green hills or its picturesque lake, this natural wonder is sure to take any visitor's breath away. Yet the standout feature of this park is not the natural scenery. It's this thing. Crouching by the shore of the villa's lake, the Apennine Colossus stands at an incredible 36 feet high. Jean de Boulogne created the sculpture, intended to be a personification of the nearby Apennine Mountains in the late 16th century. But the genius of de Boulogne's work doesn't end there. You see, he didn't just build any old statue. If you take a look around the back, you'll notice this cavernous entrance. Inside the Apennine Colossus are a network of passageways leading to grottos, fountains, and even a chamber that's located within the Colossus's head. If that wasn't cool enough, there's also a fireplace in the chamber which, when lit, releases smoke through the Colossus's nose. On top of that, at nighttime, the chamber is illuminated with torches, making it seem from the outside that the statue's eyes are glowing in the dark. Can you imagine taking an innocent stroll through the Pratolino Medici Park at night when all of a sudden you're confronted by a 36-foot-tall statue with glowing eyes and smoke coming out of its nose? Man, I don't know if Jean de Boulogne goes down as an awesome architect or a playful prankster. Hairy Ear. In 2013, a 30-foot-tall bronze statue of Nelson Mandela was erected in Pretoria, South Africa to commemorate the apartheid activist after his death. It's fair to say sculptors André Prinsloo and Ruhan Jans van Vuren did a pretty good job in producing a high-quality lifelike statue. Yet, despite their extraordinary effort, the South African government refused the artist's request to engrave their signatures on the statue's trousers. So instead, Prinsloo and Van Vuren came up with a brilliant backup plan. Around a month after the statue was erected, a tourist noticed something odd about Mr. Mandela. They saw something poking out of the statue's right ear. A closer look revealed that there was a small bronze bunny around half the size of the ear canal tucked inside. So what were Prinsloo and Van Vuren up to? Were these guys raving rabbit enthusiasts? Maybe they were big fans of Bugs Bunny. In fact, this cute construction was the workers' way of signing off the statue in their own style. Though it may seem strange at first, rabbit in the Afrikaans language is haas, which means haste. Due to the tight deadline they had to complete the project, they felt this bronze bunny would be a suitable signature. Sadly though, not everyone agreed. When the government discovered the rabbit for themselves, they ordered it to be taken down to try and restore dignity back to the statue. So while Pretoria's Nelson Mandela statue no longer contains a bunny in its ear, this little-known story is still a pretty interesting Easter egg, don't you think? Confederate capsule. Back in 2021, a statue commemorating the former American Confederate General Robert E. Lee was taken down in Richmond, Virginia. As the statue was uplifted by a crane, workers noticed something odd in its pedestal. It was a rusty old 36-pound copper container. Looks intriguing, right? This wasn't just some container, though. It was a time capsule deposited in the statue at the time of its construction in 1887. And as it happened, this was a much-anticipated find. Historians already knew of its existence due to an issue of the Richmond Dispatch newspaper from October 1887. The newspaper stated that around 60 objects were donated to the capsule, including a picture of Abraham Lincoln lying in his coffin. That's a pretty big deal, considering there's only one genuine photograph of Lincoln's corpse, and even that was destroyed per the wishes of his widow, Mary. When archaeologists opened the prized box, they found various artifacts, including books, Civil War memorabilia, and the all-important image of Lincoln lying in his coffin. Except it wasn't exactly what researchers were hoping for. Instead of a photograph, they uncovered a printed image of a figure grieving over Lincoln's grave from an 1865 edition of a Harper's Weekly magazine. Still, considering the box contains some 60 items dating back around 150 years, it's fair to say this capsule was certainly worth researchers' time. Liberty's little-known lair. But that's not the only American statue to contain a secret or two. Say hello to arguably the world's most famous statue, the Statue of Liberty. This superstructure is visited by almost 5 million sightseers every year. But for all the attention Lady Liberty gets, very few people know what she's hiding. Before its assembly, specially chosen items were put into a time capsule and placed under where the Statue of Liberty stands. The memorabilia included a copy of the U.S. Constitution, 20 bronze medals of U.S. presidents, and a portrait of Frederic Auguste Bartholdi, the sculptor responsible for the statue. No one's accessed the time capsule since, and it's believed that it'll only be accessible when Lady Liberty is torn down. Although now that I look at it, the raised foot of Libby does look suspiciously like a hidden door. Who knows, maybe the route to that time capsule was hiding in plain sight the whole time. At a loftier height, you'll find the statue's torch constructed as a symbol of enlightenment. Well, let me quickly enlighten you on what was once found within this big beacon. Back in the day, the Statue of Liberty's torch wasn't just for show, it also acted as a balcony. Up to 12 people at a time could climb 300 feet up and enjoy the view from the torch's terrace. But I wouldn't get your hopes up about experiencing this for yourself. Back in July 1916, German agents stuffed barges moored along the wharf by Liberty Island with explosives. Their aim was to destroy a nearby munitions depot filled with supplies soon to be shipped to the Allies for use in World War I. And well, they succeeded. Shortly after 2 a.m., a massive blast obliterated the depot, damaging the Statue of Liberty and her torch in the process. The destruction was so bad a decision was made to close visitor access to the beacon for good. What a shame. First a hidden time capsule, then a secret torch terrace? Who knew old Libby held so many secrets? Talk about being tight-lipped. Heartfelt discovery. Speaking of world-famous statues, that brings us to Rio de Janeiro's Christ the Redeemer. As one of the new 7 wonders of the world, it's no surprise this 125-foot-tall statue of Jesus Christ attracts 2 million visitors per year. Yet, chances are a massive majority of those who have seen this statue up close don't know about its little secret. Within the chest of Christ the Redeemer, you'll find a hidden feature. A heart. The 4-foot-wide organ is made from the same stone that covers the outside of the monument. Cute as it is, why did builders go to all the trouble of adding in this secret feature in the first place? Well, for the workers who put it there, it's not just a stone heart, but a representation of the Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ, a symbol of God's boundless and passionate love for mankind. If that wasn't wholesome enough, inside the heart is another secret. Here you'll find a small glass jar containing the family tree of Heather Levy, one of the engineers responsible for the construction of the statue. Talk about cementing your place in history. Rushmore's Room. Rounding up our quick-stop tour of globally recognized monuments is this not-so-little landmark, Mount Rushmore. Each year, over 2 million tourists hike to the Black Hills to get a glimpse of one of the United States' greatest monuments. Famous as the 60-foot-tall bust of Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln are, did you know Mount Rushmore has a hidden surprise? Behind the head of Lincoln, you'll find this mysterious doorway that's been carved into the mountain. Gutzon Borglum, the sculptor behind Mount Rushmore, planned to create a large room within the mountain. This chamber, known as the Hall of Records, was proposed to be 80 by 100 feet, and inside Borglum wanted bronze and glass cabinets containing important American documents like the Declaration of Independence, as well as busts of famous Americans and a list of U.S. contributions to the world in science, industry, and arts. Construction on the hidden hall took place between July 1938 and July 1939 after a 70-foot tunnel was blasted into the mountain. Sadly, though, Borglum died in 1941, and with it, so did his grand dreams. The unfinished hall sat empty and untouched for decades. That was until 1998, when a repository was constructed inside the empty cavern containing a copy of the Bill of Rights, the U.S. Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence. The items were sealed within a titanium vault and protected by a 1,200-pound slab of granite. A titanium vault and a 1,200-pound slab of granite? That's a whole lot of protection for a few documents. Maybe something even more significant is hiding within Mount Rushmore's little-known Chamber of Secrets. Perhaps some extraterrestrial artifacts or hidden treasures? But intrigued as you may be, the Hall of Records is strictly off-limits for the general public. So Mount Rushmore's secret stash is gonna remain that way for a while longer. Beaming Buddha. Back in 1955 in Bangkok, Thailand, a Buddha statue was being moved to a nearby temple. Now, this was no easy feat. The statue was around 10 feet tall and extremely heavy to lift. And remember, this was back in the 50s, so the move relied solely on manpower. As workers readied to lift the Buddha, the ropes fastened around the sizable statue snapped, causing it to take a tumble, smashing onto the hard concrete floor. Instantly, the workers rushed over to check if the statue was okay, but much to their horror, part of the statue's outer casing had been chipped. However, their anguish soon turned to awe when they realized there was a golden light emanating from the crack. The workers used a hammer and chisel to chip away at the clay exterior until they revealed whatever was beneath the casing. It turns out a solid gold version of the Buddha was hiding inside. The question is, why wasn't this version on show in the first place? Well, historians believe the statue was deliberately covered with clay by Thai monks in the 1760s as a means to protect it from an attack by the Burmese army. After all, soldiers would be far less likely to steal a clay statue rather than a gold one. Sadly, however, the monks were slain in the attack, meaning their golden secret would die with them until this fortuitous discovery was made nearly 200 years later. And I mean fortuitous. Today, the statue is Thailand's most prized holy relic, recently being valued at over $250 million. Talk about a happy accident. Crazy corpse. Mind-blowing as that glowing golden find is, it's still not the craziest thing found within a Buddha statue. Nope, instead that honor goes to this 1,000-year-old bronze figure. The statue, believed to originate from Yangchun in southern China, ended up at the Drent Museum in Holland by the 21st century. Clearly thinking something was inside, researchers sent the figure off to the Meender Medical Center in the Dutch town of Amersfoort to find an answer. Here, the statue was subjected to a full CT scan, revealing that beneath the bronze was, wait for it, a human corpse. Incredibly, the statue encased the mummified remains of an 11th century Buddhist master known as Liu Quan. But how did Li Quan end up inside the statue in the first place? Was it part of some cruel ancient Chinese punishment? Or maybe it was a game of hide and seek gone really wrong? In truth, this spooky statue is the result of a practice known as self-mummification. The elaborate and arduous process includes drinking a poisonous tea, making the body too toxic to be eaten by maggots. After years of adhering to this strict diet and nearing starvation, monks like Li Quan were then buried alive in an underground chamber. Breathing through a bamboo tube, the monk sat in a lotus position, chanting prayers in the darkness. Each day, he rang a bell inside the tomb to signal that he remained alive. When the rings finally subsided, the air tube was removed and the tomb sealed, with Li Quan inside. The practice might sound pretty grim, but for Buddhist monks, this process of self-mummification was seen as a path to enlightenment and an advanced spiritual state. Even still, don't try that one at home, folks, otherwise your mummified remains might be stuck inside a statue for the next 1,000 years too. Dino discovery. While we're talking about encased corpses, that brings us on to our next statue. This strange papier-mâché stegosaurus sculpture was put up in Santa Coloma de Gramenet on the outskirts of Barcelona with the aim of generating publicity for an old cinema. One sunny day in May 2021, a father and son were taking a stroll through the suburb when they noticed the peculiar papier-mâché. But as they approached the dino, their curiosity quickly turned to disgust. A pungent odor was emanating from the dinosaur. As the father and son edged closer to the statue, they noticed a crack in the steg's leg. Much to their horror, there looked to be a person within the structure. Surely not. After alerting the authorities, the local fire department uncovered that someone had somehow got inside the papier-mâché and, well, that it ended up being their final resting place. The victim was confirmed as a 39-year-old man who'd been reported missing earlier that day. Police estimated he'd been trapped inside the dino for around 2 days. Man, what a way to go. The question is, how did he get there in the first place? Well, tragically, police believe the man somehow managed to drop his phone inside the stegosaurus while trying to take a snap of it. In a panic, the man tried to retrieve it by crawling headfirst through a crack in the sculpture's leg, getting stuck in the process. Fair to say, meeting your maker inside the leg of a dinosaur statue isn't the most roarsome way to bow out. And that rounds up the strangest things found in statues. Which freaky find did you find most baffling? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.